Good morning, Jefi. Coming to me from Diego. How are you?
San Diego, California. Hey, I'm good. How about you, Mr. Chapel Hill?
Doing good. Hey, big day on the new Ponderosa. The septic guy showed up today. They're putting a riser in, so you never know what's gonna await you in the morning
I don't even
in
know
the
what a riser
country.
is. Yeah, I don't think I
You don't
want to know
want
right
to
now.
know.
Okay,
But
good.
they were
That's
opening up the septic tank. That's a
okay.
fun day.
Yeah, I'd be like a mile away. I'd be like, ooh, smells
Yeah.
aren't good for me.
I looked at him and I said, "Hey, you gonna pop the top on that bad boy? Let's go." So,
Well, on that note,
yeah, what's going on
you
with
know,
you? What's new in Diego?
well, you know, life is good. There's been a lot of self-care and a lot of planning for 2024 and the fourth quarter. So that's been exciting. A lot of gardening, good eating. Me and the veggies. Gotta have
Oh,
a bunch of them. How about with you?
kind of the same. Lots of stuff going on and getting
Hmm.
ready for the new year. And it's funny. We should we tell the story about this episode and how it came
Yeah,
about?
do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I reached out to you a couple days ago, I guess, and I said, "Hey,
Yeah.
let's do an hour and a half planning session. You come up with a topic, I come up with a topic, cold, and let's go through them."
Hmm.
And what did we do?
We had the exact same topic
We
from
had
two
the
different perspectives, which was really cool when we started dissecting it down.
exactly. We came up with the same topics and with a little different spin that kind of reflects our
Uh-huh.
personalities. And so we said,
Yep.
"Hey, that's the universe talking to us here, right? So
Mhm.
let's go deep on this." So it's going to be a two-part series
Mhm.
called "The Power of Purpose and Mission," which were kind of
Mm.
my titles. Yours were dream weaving and crystal clearing. What was the other part? I'm trying to remember.
Well, it was dream weaving and planning for 2024. The dream weaving was way more, in my wheelhouse, and planning was kind of boring, but
Yeah,
it's so funny that we both had two ideas. They were the same
they
ideas,
were the same
and we've
ideas.
and because there's so much good content here, that's why we've split it in two. So we are going to start with the power of purpose.
Exactly. And, for a little backstory here, as we're coming into fourth quarter and getting ready for the
Mhm.
next year, I've been diving into flow and some flow training, which I'm finding
Yeah.
really powerful and interesting. Stephen Kotler's got a group that does that. And you've been powering into kind of energy healing. Isn't that what you've been
Yeah.
doing? Right.
Yes, I have been. So I got Reiki certified,
So cool.
and I know it's so rad, and tons of meditation, lots of just, good healing stuff for me, and which is my creative modality, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah, which is
yeah.
awesome. And what we're
Hmm.
finding is, it's almost like the yin and the yang a little bit. We're coming from different perspectives on it, but it's the
Hmm.
same essence. And so
It really is.
we've got our own spin. So why would you say this matters, Jeff?
Well, again, this is a quote I heard at one of our Buffini events, and that's how you live your days is how you live your years. And a lot of times people don't realize that the compounding effect of what you do each day really does affect the years to come. So for me, I'm thinking on a much grander scale right now. So I'm looking 10 years down to see what it is that I really want to see happen in those 10 years. And then when I started breaking it down, I started seeing how much the daily activities really, really do make a huge difference. So that was the place I was coming from when I was dream weaving.
Right. And from my side of it, I was coming from this perspective of your North Star really being the foundation
Mm-hmm.
for your goals and objectives and what you try to do. And you need to take a look at that and define it and go through it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what today's exercise is and discussion is
Yeah.
really focusing on that, on those two principles.
Right. And your North Star meaning the most important thing for you right now, right? Because my interpretation of a North Star might be a little different than,
Right.
okay,
Really your purpose,
your purpose.
is like of what you're trying to do on a bigger scale. And so I think that's where we were going to kind of take it is
Yeah.
zooming
Great.
in on purpose.
Love this.
And I thought maybe it would make sense to really kind of look at a definition of purpose. And this is,
Okay.
again, coming from Stephen Kotler's group, the Flow Research Collective. And they say that purpose refers to the deeper meaning and significance behind our actions and goals. It involves connecting our passions and values to something greater than ourselves. And I think
Mm,
that's a real key one, greater than
hmm.
ourselves. So,
Yes. Just a little sidebar here. I watched a documentary with Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, and it was called Joy.
mm,
And both of them, this undercurrent was that both of them dedicated their North Star to something greater than themselves. And in return, their buckets are filled and filled and filled by doing this. And that is something that I just, wrap your head around that one. I mean,
yeah.
it's if you had that be a thread through everything you did in the next 12 months, imagine the growth opportunity.
Yeah, it really is something, and it's a hard one to try and balance. The mere mortals amongst us, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
To
for sure.
try and do that, but it's very true that if you can make that connection of what you're doing about something greater than yourself, you're going to get far more out of it, far more out of life. And those are two, like, ultra examples of doing that.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we're heading, is like, hey, take a time out and try to figure out, what's the purpose, and what are you trying to do with all this?
Mhm.
And we've got some thoughts on that. So,
Sure.
um, I think the key one, and again, this is from some of the work that I've been doing, is N equals one. So N as in Nancy equals one.
Okay.
And that's really saying, hey, it's about you and what's important to you and what's going to work for others. My purpose is going to be different than your purpose. The
Correct.
process that I go through to figure this out is going to be different than yours. And
Yes.
so, and you need to be comfortable with that. And the people around you have to be comfortable with that.
Yeah, support in that process is huge. Hey, what's the acronym mean, N equals 1?
So n is like the number, so the
Okay.
universe, so
Okay.
equals one. So
Okay.
like in bikes, it's n plus one. Like the
Okay.
number of bikes you need is one more.
There's one more. Got you.
Right.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
So it's
Okay,
kind of like a
adding that up. Yep.
mathematical thing, right? So it's like, okay,
Understand.
it's
Yeah.
only one.
It's only
So
one.
it's your process.
Mhm.
It's your values. It's what's important to you, and what
Mhm.
speaks to you, and then how you're going to apply that for others, ideally.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's going to go forward. So maybe a little on background, because we've talked about this.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty clear looking back on my career for the last 20 years. My purpose was pretty well defined, and I didn't really maybe even realize it as much as that.
Yeah.
My purpose was to raise two, healthy, well-adjusted, educated kids, and to
Mhm.
put them on a path to where they could have the tools to go forward, and the values, and to be independent adults, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm thinking what was my path, and I'm all, holy shit, it was survival.
That's fine.
Ed's turning out beautiful rose-colored children. That they're amazing, by the way. And Lynn did
Hey,
help with that. Just want
I
to
was
throw
going
that
to
in
say
there. Okay.
that was a shared
Shared experience.
purpose.
And here I
And
am, hair on fire, just trying to
now, don't sell yourself short. Again, that was the purpose. The mission were all the steps, and it wasn't like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
easy, but
yeah. I know.
that was clearly a lot around a lot of the choices that I made as you laugh through this. I love that.
I know.
So,
No, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm laughing at myself, to be honest with you. I'm kind of
mhm.
taking a digger at myself,
No,
but
that's fine.
oh
I'm just
man,
chuckling.
hair on
So
fire.
so
Okay.
anyway, that was my purpose. But now I'm realizing, hey, this is a new chapter they've launched, and so now I'm
Hmm.
kind of evaluating things. It's like, hey, new opportunities, right? I'm not going to
Right.
be one of those helicopter parents that is like involved in everything.
Right.
Hey, they're off launching. They're done.
Yes.
Right. I'm there for
Yes.
support when they need it, but that's not my purpose anymore. So
So this is an exciting transition for you.
yes,
Like
it totally is.
in a much like everybody's transitioning in their own ways, but you're at a big pivotal moment, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It is kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I
So,
like it. I like it.
any more thoughts on that before we kind of go into some of the key points there?
Um, well, I think if we're talking about these moments, this can go. We're really talking about breaking down the things that light us up, that we can our purpose of the things that light us up that we can take into work and into our personal lives, and blending these things together, right?
Right.
So
Correct.
that's the purpose of this thought and this podcast. But I don't think so. I think that we could just get into the next point.
Okay. So next point, and again, is you want to be taking the time
Mm-hmm.
to kind of figure out what the internal fit is.
Yep.
If you think of when you're operating at your best, how do you feel inside? Right.
Yeah.
And kind of reflect on those moments, because that's going to open things up for you. Right. So
Right.
for me, if I'm in my ideal self, I'm calm, I try to have wisdom, I'm grounded, I want to take
Mm-hmm.
care of myself first. I want to
Mm-hmm.
show others the way. I want to be confident. I want to
Mm-hmm.
express gratitude. I want to
Yes.
be exercising, meditating,
Yes.
these
Yes.
type of things, right? So you're ruminating on this internal feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Jeff?
So I'm sorry, listeners, but I don't. Where are you in the points, Edward?
You need a timeout?
I need a timeout because I think that we were going through. Are we going through internal right now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I don't see your notes, buddy. Hey, Seth, you might need to this for a second. Time out. Time out. Okay. Where are you, honestly, in the key points? What number are you on?
2A.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
Okay,
All right,
good.
Seth, we're going to time
Okay.
in here.
Okay.
So time in. And for you, Jeffy, what would you say are those internal items?
So it's interesting because for me, when and I actually went through this morning and wrote down a bunch of stuff to get the feeling of this for our podcast today. And when I'm thinking about things that light me up, my body has a physical reaction to it.
Yeah.
So my hair stands up on end, or I get joy, or I get a big fat smile on my face, or, there's so many things that happen for me to understand what it is that I'm attracted to doing. So that's my way.
Yeah. So what would some of those items be that you journaled out?
Learning is probably that was the first thing I wrote down. I love learning. I love evolving. I love information. I'm an information junkie. Loving was number 2.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Healing was number 3. Gardening, water capture systems,
So
compost.
so taking, so you like this kind of, to make it internal, then that's like you
Yeah.
like this nurturing
Yes.
feeling and caring,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's where you're getting your internal energy, right?
Yeah. Exactly. What about
With
you?
Well, I think where it translates now is into the external, right? So now it's
Ah.
like, okay, what's the environment that you're in, or the things that you're doing that bring that out? So for me,
Okay.
I tend to get that, like, I like, where do I live? I like to be in a modernist home, clean, lots of glass. I
Mhm.
like the woods around me. I like
Mhm.
adventure in the back country. I like exploration.
Mhm.
Those cycling, it's like, how am I
Mhm.
spending my time? And what
Mm.
lights me up is being out in nature,
Mhm.
and having an appreciation for that.
Right. Okay, so this is interesting. Sorry. This is an interesting thing because you are learning this on a different level and I'm way more in the organic pool floating
Hmm.
around with, things that excite me. So why don't can you go through again the internal and external component just so that our listeners can and Jefi
Sure.
Moultrie can understand that?
Sure. Absolutely. So,
Okay.
so in the internal side, those are like the internal feelings that you're getting. That like,
Right.
if you're in your ideal self,
Got you.
and so for me, that was like I'm calm. I've got some wisdom. I feel grounded.
Mhm.
I'm taking care of myself first. Presenting in a way that's confident. I'm at peace. I have gratitude. Those are
Got
like
you.
literally as I was working on that. Those are the things I was journaling out. Right.
Okay. So those are your internal
Internal.
feelings that support this stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's like internally how you
Yep.
feel, right?
Yep.
So if you're like acting in a purposeful way, that's inside how you feel.
There
And
you
then
go.
you
That's
look
the
at,
piece.
and then
Mhm.
and then you look at the external, which is, well, what's the environment and the things that you're doing and where do you live that bring that out? Does the beach do it for you? Do the mountains do it
Yes.
for you? Does
Got
the
you.
desert do it for you? Or
Got you.
does a big city, the energy of a big city? Again, n equals one. That environment's going to be different for everybody, but you
Right.
want to be listing that out and
Right.
and then answers are going to come to you
Yeah.
after you kind of start to get that going.
Right. Okay. So now I can answer your question way better.
Okay.
Okay. So my internal, like one of my biggest internal things is that I find complete calm from being in my garden because the feel of the wind, my feet, I usually don't wear shoes because I like to feel the dirt.
That's
Um,
cool.
the smell of my vegetables, the tactile piece of feeling the dirt in my hands, that is like a zen, beautiful place for me. And then in turn for that, for external, I'm in nature. I'm outside. I can feel the sun. I've got all those things going on, all revolving around gardening. So that would be one thing.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna play around with this for a minute, and I'm
Okay,
not.
good. Let's do it.
This is not meant to tell you what your purpose is. But here's
That's
like
right. Because N equals one, buddy.
n equals one. It's your journey. But
Right.
an example of that, then, if you came through that and through all this exercise, it's like, hey, gardening's really important to me. I want to be doing more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if I taught people how to garden? What if I got involved in community gardens
Got you.
in neighborhoods where that doesn't exist, where there's food deserts? What if I start driving toward that? What's a
Right.
big 5-year dream out for that?
Right.
That could be an avenue that now turns your vocation, what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
day in and day out, to drive to a bigger purpose that resonates with
Gotcha.
you. That's not
Gotcha.
going to be it for me.
Right.
It may not be it for you, but it could be.
Right. Okay. So we're getting all these internal fits, the external, and then seeing how that can play into the long term.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the the next point on this is get out.
Right.
You know, get out, get in nature, get in an environment that where you can maybe get a bigger view. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
like, and if you're not an outdoors person, like go to a city and get in a tall building, get up on a tall building and look out. Get an environment where you can be up looking down and help. That will help you get a broader view of what you're trying to do as you meditate on this and journal.
That'd be really cool. Like get yourself out of your normal space. I love the tall building idea.
Yeah.
Because it's an entirely different perspective that we normally don't have. I mean, unless you live in a big city. Like I'm rarely in a tall building. So that is a really cool idea. So you're saying kind of stretch yourself, get yourself into spaces where you can get creative and have a different perspective.
That's right.
I like it.
Yeah. So, in doing this, it's like you take time to connect with your
Mhm.
internal and your external and doing that work.
Mhm.
And then in identifying your purpose, it's really like now take time to disconnect from the kind of world around you. Set that time aside, because we're all so connected,
Yes.
that we're so busy that we don't take that time.
Yes.
Which brought me to a term I found, which I thought was a joke at first.
Yeah.
Nomophobia. You know what that?
Wow. Okay, let's hear
So
this.
nomophobia is like fear of not having your phone, like mobile.
Oh,
So
that is
so,
so funny.
and I did a little searching on this morning. 58% of men and 47% of women become anxious when they're away from their phones.
Where
They
do
just
you
can't.
fall in that category?
Oh, pretty high. I would say I'm working on it,
Yeah,
but 50% of mobile phone users never disconnect, and I've been working on disconnecting on that.
that's really good. I have sensory overload with the sound of my phone. So my phone is always on silent
Yeah.
unless I'm expecting a phone call. Like if I've left somebody a voicemail and I'm expecting that, and I probably, considering my profession, don't have my phone on me as much as most people.
That's
The
good.
o the only time that I get that feeling of nomophobia is when I need my phone for directions. Like, if I don't really know where I'm going, then and I can't find my phone or I left it at home, I feel very lost because I've become so dependent on it for directions. But other than
Well,
that, I don't really care.
yeah, and we were talking, earlier in the week about, phone hacks to kind of
Mhm.
reduce that, and you were already doing a lot of those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that, yeah, I've fallen into that to where it's like always with me, but I'm
Mhm.
conscious of it, and I'm
Mhm.
really working on it, because
It's good.
if you don't take that time to disconnect,
Right.
then you can't take the time to connect with your inner voice, right?
Right. Which is another thing that from my woo world, I do a ton of meditating and a ton of journaling. So that to me is disconnection because I'm letting my brain have a moment to not be firing on all cylinders. So it's I find that that works for me. Do you I know we've talked about this before, but are you meditating?
Yeah, I do. I meditate,
Mhm.
but I'm not as disciplined at it as it is you are. And you do that meditative journaling, which I think is really powerful. Do you want to
Mm,
talk a little bit about that
sure.
as a
Sure.
technique?
Yeah, I and this is a great for people who aren't used to meditating, but if you just put on some music, like usually no words because your brain needs quiet. So you can I know Buffini uses Baroque
Yeah, Baroque
music.
style music.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. So you could do something like that. You could do meditative music. And then I set a timer for 10 minutes and I don't let my pen lift off the paper for 10 minutes. And I just free flow. And it's amazing. So you can't have your coffee while you're doing this. Like this is literally all you're doing is focusing on what you're writing. And in there, then I go back and I reread what I've written and I will find things that I circle that have come out that then I will dive deeper into. So that it feels great to do that. And then I
Yeah.
shred the paper and get rid of it.
You shred it and get rid of it. You don't keep
Uh-huh.
it. No, oh,
No, I don't. So I'm
that's
like,
pretty
okay, I
cool.
got the information.
You have to burn it in incense.
Yeah. burn, burn. But yes, so that's those are great ways. But that is really funny. Nomophobia.
Yeah,
Wow.
nomophobia.
Okay.
Um, but I think again, taking the time to connect with your inner
Mhm.
voice, and then another part of this, and I know you're a firm believer of it, is be willing to receive the subtle signs that are presented to you, and hear them. And so when you kind of go
Mhm.
through this, things will come up that will speak to you. And I had this happen this morning, which was really kind of crazy.
Oh, tell
Should I?
me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've been getting back into my habit of getting my morning rides in, and I live in a new area, so I
Yep.
literally go right out my driveway, and I'm on a country road. Beautiful. So I'm out riding, got a loop I'm doing, and I'm going down this country road, and then I hear this, hey, coming around, and this young cyclist goes whipping by me, and he looks at me and says, "Well, hey, Ed," and I look. And I look, now this is like 8 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I look, and it's one of the scouts I took on the cross country ride in
Oh,
2015. He was the
yeah.
youngest scout. He turned 15 on the trip.
That's rad.
And isn't that something? And he's in grad school now at UNC. And he pulled beside me, and it lit me up. It made my morning. I whipped my phone out, Hobophonia, and took a picture of him and shot a video to send out to the other leaders of the trip and to his dad. And we talked for a little while, and then he took off. And it made me feel so good to see him and
Yeah.
realize having that experience. And now he's still writing, and he's out doing stuff,
Right.
and just moving forward with his dreams. It really spoke to me, of the power of an experience like that.
Yes. And just to tie this this is like this little subtle thing. What did that mean to you? And before you answer, did it mean, hey, it's amazing that I'm out riding my bike, or hey, I've made these connections over my life, I want to reconnect, or what was that little connection?
The connection for me was realizing the value of outdoor adventure and getting out and experiences, and how it can carry you forward, and how I want to continue to share that with people, and really adults this time,
Yeah.
and kind of reawakening this for people.
Yeah.
I think is really, really important, because it's made a
Yeah.
huge difference in my life, and it's made a huge difference for my kids that I've exposed to this, and other adults that I've
Mhm.
participated in with it. And I think people might be a little starved for that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I also was thinking, oh, great, still riding his bike, man. And he
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah. At like early in the morning, he was a long
Uh-huh.
way from UNC. He was pretty
Yeah.
far out, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, he's out getting it done early in the morning and in great
That's so
shape. And,
cool. That is
and,
really cool.
so
Oh,
that was pretty cool.
yep.
I think, did you have anything else on that?
I just, you know what? I love this kind of stuff. And I love that you're immersing yourself in this class that you're doing. And I feel like I get to learn from you. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's how my brain works. So everybody's
No,
just gonna have to deal with that.
no,
Um,
totally cool. But from your
it's
perspective
just
on this and
from
the work you're
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, from my perspective on this and the way I personally do this, it just I love that there's a little bit of organization to it here, because I'm very just like, woo, about here. And so this is helping me pull these ideas and these feelings in. And just going back to your ride and seeing, is it Rich? Is that his name?
Be Rich. So yeah,
Be
Brian
Rich.
Richardson. Little shout
Brian.
out, Brian. So yeah.
Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you, bud. Um, it really the thing that you did when you did that ride is still, that feeling is still carrying over. So to know that feeling and to be able to put it into something that lights you up now, knowing that in 10 years from now you're still going to be feeling that and getting the benefits of it. What a
Yeah.
cool, you have a great barometer.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way, Jeff, but that's very true, because
Yeah.
just seeing him and on the road in that environment, it just lit me up,
Yeah.
and that's really kind of cool to be able to access that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but in our next episode, we're going to talk about how you can blend this into your work life as well. So this is your homework for this week, and then we're going to keep
Right.
going. But
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
the crossover is going to be there, everybody.
Yeah. This is the high end.
Stay the
This is the high
course.
level. The crossover will be next
Yeah.
week. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Okay. This is a good one. This next one.
it's okay to change course.
Yeah.
It's okay to change course. And
Yes.
um, the analogy, again, I kind of came up with this on the ride today, is that in some ways it's a bit like hiking if you're quote unquote lost. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
if you got a good map and a compass and you know how to use it,
Yeah.
you're never really
And your
lost.
phone.
Well, those can go out, but if you're lost in the woods, what do? You pause, you
Mm-hmm.
stop,
Mm-hmm.
kind of observe around. If you really don't know, you get up on some high ground so you can get some
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Yep.
And then if you got a map with you and a compass, you start shooting some coordinates and and look out and try and identify things on the map and triangulate and figure out where the hell you are.
Right.
And that's what this is kind of doing, where it's saying, hey, what are the internals? What are the externals? What lights me up? Take some
That's
time to
right.
get some perspective, and you may need to change course a little bit.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we say, this is my goal. I'm going to do this. I'm all in. And then you get in and it's just not resonating with you. And then there's something that we go, whoa, I said I was going to do it. So I gotta keep doing it. Well, no, you don't. You,
Yeah,
you need to N equals 1 and say, this isn't resonating with me, and choose a different direction, or choose the same thing, but maybe you're not implementing it in the right way. It
right.
just there is no perfect answer here. There is no perfect way to do any of this. It's just having the idea of what lights you up and then trying the way you think you should implement it. And there you go.
Yeah, you might be just in a different spot on the trail, and you got to
Yeah.
take a look and redefine your purpose a little bit, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So the last point on this, and I
Yep.
really liked this a lot, which
Me
was
too.
prepare a pre-mortem, not a post-mortem, but
Yes.
a pre-mortem.
Yep.
And what they mean by that is saying, hey, what are the things that are going to get in your way that historically trip you up?
Mhm.
And plan for that. Know where the landmines are,
Mhm.
and be sensitive to it.
And I did this morning.
So go ahead. I want to hear yours.
Okay.
What do you got?
Okay. So my number one issue is choosing too many things, because I love like all these different things. So if I choose too many, I don't really get the full experience of some.
Gotcha.
And
So
by that, here's my list of all the things that light me up. So there's a lot. Those aren't probably all going to happen right now.
yeah, but look for themes, right? You look for
Right.
themes,
You do
and
look for themes. There's too many themes, Ed Billings. There's too many themes in here. Trust me when I say this is my issue. And then the other thing is, if I don't feel supported.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. So I love team and the aspect of team and the feeling of team. And if I have this, thing, even though I know it's N equals 1, if I don't feel supported in me doing that thing, I struggle.
Yeah, that's good to know. So
Yeah.
that, and so you need to seek out that support, and then
Yeah,
build systems in to kind of limit your choices.
probably.
So if you were to go to a vegetarian salad bar, do you overload your plate with everything and then you're like you don't have enough? Is that what happens?
Excuse me, can I have a tickle box, please, for my chickens? Yes.
So that's your thing. And
Uh-huh.
and for me, I know mine, which is I have this perfectionist side, so that causes procrastination.
Mhm.
And then if people are kind of maybe similar to yours, if they kind of dream crush,
Mhm.
I can listen to the chorus of that a little bit too much. So I got to get out of
Yeah.
my own head.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was thinking about this today. I can work myself into kind of like a state of exhaustion if I'm not careful, because I'm, finalize, execute. So I need to be sensitive
Yeah.
to that too, to make sure I
Yeah.
program in a little bit of that rest to make sure I'm taking care of myself. So you want to look at as you do these things and make sure that as you do that and you look for these themes, and then you just would sit down and say, hey, what's my purpose? And if you force yourself to journal on that after going through this, it's probably going to come to you.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And don't give up if it doesn't come right away, because this is the process of digging it out. And I don't know, man. This is really exciting to me. So
Yeah. A lot of
we
deep
want to,
stuff here. A lot of deep
yeah.
stuff. We
Yeah.
maybe might be one to listen to a couple times, but again, it's know that, it's yours. N equals 1. Look for the internal and the external.
Hmm.
Take the time to disconnect.
Hmm.
from the outs from the chaotic world, but then take the time to connect with your inner voice, be okay to change course, and then know where the landmines are.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that if you spend the time putting this all together and you do listen to this again and you just get super vulnerable with yourself, I think the vulnerability is probably one of the key points of really digging deep to see what lights you up, because it's easy to say what everybody else says. I love my job. I love, taking care of clients. I love this. Well, okay, let's get just a little tiny bit deeper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And know that,
Yeah.
yeah, that we do love that, but then is there a greater thing going on that you can tie it into? And that's what we're going to
Right.
dig into next week
Yes,
on the
I'm so
focus
excited
on
about
that.
that part.
Yeah, that's going to be
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's gonna be really cool. So it's focusing on the mission, right?
yeah, that's it. Focusing on the
Okay.
mission. And so we're gonna dig in on that. And hey, we're all work in progress. We're doing the hard work.
Mhm.
Hopefully, you are too.
Yep.
And we can't wait to hear how everybody's doing on this.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Ed. I really do appreciate you bringing this forth, this
Hey,
refined idea.
you're doing it too. So thank you. All right. See
Bye,
you, everybody.
everybody.
Bye bye.